And so my name is Josephine Jen Morgan. I'm the coordinator of the Pre-Health Professions program here at the University of Arizona. With me, I have one of my colleagues. The other one is not here. So Ethan Bull is one of our pre-health advisors. We also have Neti Gupta, but she is not here today. But we are the staff of the Pre-Health Professions program here at the University of Arizona. We're located over at the Bartlett Academic Success Center. It's right behind Bear Down Gym. We're on the 4th floor. Come see us if you haven't. We'd love to help you after the session. If you want to make an appointment, our appointments are open. So today we actually this is our last session of the 10th annual Expo, which is our Health Professions Expo, and we have it every spring. And we really target those students who are actively ready to apply. So your information that you're going to hear from the panelists is going to be so valuable because they've been there, done that, and beyond that, because we do have some residents here too, which is really exciting. I have to say that, it's really just a pleasure to know that many of the panelists actually were our pre-health ambassadors in our office. And so just to let you know, if you're interested in becoming a pre-health ambassador, the application is open. Take a look on our website. And our current ambassadors, and we've done this for every cohort of our ambassadors, they are the selection committee for the next group. We are looking for 3 or 4 pre-health ambassadors for the 2022-23 school year. So they'll go through all the applications and they will do the interview. And we are set up to do a virtual multiple mini interviews. So even if you get the chance to get interviewed and have that experience, it's really an insightful process. So again, if you're interested, please do that. We also have another application out, which is called the Patient Ambassador Internship. And that's with our partner with Banner. So that application is open. So if you're looking for an experience at the hospital, we have students placed at 2 different campuses, the UMC campus and also Banner South. And so we select 40 students. That application is open. And Ethan, when does that close? I want to say Sunday.
It closes on Sunday at 11:59.
So take a look. Many of our students have gone through the Patient Ambassador Internship. So you might want to think about that. You earn upper division credit and it puts you on the floor over at Banner UMC. So on behalf of the A Center and the Pre-Health Professions Advising Program and the Pre-Health Ambassadors, I want to welcome you today. Again, this is really exciting. This is our 10th annual Health Professions Expo. Hopefully next year we can be on campus where in the grand ballroom, we have browse sessions, we have breakouts. So we'll shoot for that and hopefully that can happen next year. I also want to let our participants know that are attending today that as attending any one of the panels, your name is going to be put into a drawing for an Mcat review book package. And the cost of it retail is about $500. If you're pursuing any other health profession, pharmacy, dentistry, we have GRE, OAT, DAT, Pcat. So if your name is drawn and you're in a different health profession, we definitely will have review materials that you would be awarded. So we're real excited to be able to do that. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to to Matthew, who's one of our pre-health ambassadors. And they're going to introduce themselves and then we'll go through our land acknowledgement.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Evangelista, and I am one of your 4 pre-health ambassadors representing today and facilitating this panel. I'm a junior studying physiology and medical sciences, and then I'm going to pass it off to Lady.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lady. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm also one of the pre-health ambassadors. This is my 2nd year as a pre-health ambassador. I am a junior studying public health and speech, language, and hearing sciences, and it's so nice to see you all here today. And I'm going to pass it off to Yaneli.
Hi, everyone. My name's Yaneli. This is my 2nd year in the program as an ambassador, and I am a double major for Spanish and biochemistry with a minor in public health. And yeah, I'm a junior, and now I'm going to pass it to Noah.
Hey, everybody. My name is Noah. I'm a sophomore at U of A. This is my 1st year as a pre-health ambassador, and I am going to be reading the land acknowledgement today. So before we begin, we would like to recognize that we respectfully acknowledge the University of Arizona is on the lands and territories of Indigenous peoples. Today, Arizona is home to 22 federally recognized tribes, with Tucson being home to the O'odham and the Yaqui. Committed to diversity and inclusion, the university strives to build sustainability relationships with sovereign Native nations and Indigenous communities through education offerings, partnerships, and community service.
All right, thank you, Noah, for stating the land acknowledgement. So now we're gonna pass it on to our panelists to introduce themselves. So we can start with Laura Lee, and we'll make it around the room.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Laura Lee. I am a third-year pharmacy student at the University of Arizona College of Pharmacy, Tucson campus. Sorry, I just got out of work, so I'm still in my attire SO, but I'm excited to be here today.
Hi guys, my name is Ariana Adams. I am a second-year student in the inaugural class of the veterinary program here at the University of Arizona.
Hi guys, I'm Kyra V. I'm a fourth-year student at Midwestern University in the podiatric medical program. And I did my undergrad at U of A, and I was a pre-health ambassador back in my day. Seems like another life ago, but I'm excited to be here again today.
Hi, my name is Melissa Nocera, and I'm a first-year medical student here at the U of A College of Medicine.
Hey guys, my name is Marco. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm a first year of physical therapy school here at Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts.
Hi, my name is Malia. I'm a first year dental student at UCLA.
Hey everyone, my name is Grant. I'm a second year student here at AT Still University, DO school, just hanging out.
Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle. I am a first year occupational therapy student over at NAU's Bioscience campus, so in the heart of downtown Phoenix.
I'm Morgan, and I am a second year in NAU's occupational therapy program.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Eric Lemister. I went to University of Arizona where I was a pre-health advisor as well. Then went to Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine, and now currently a family medicine resident at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida.
Brianna, unfortunately, we cannot hear you. We see that you're unmuted, but we cannot hear you.
How's that?
Sounds good. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. I'm not entirely sure what happened. But my name is Brianna, and I actually was a pre-health ambassador with Kyra V and Eric, so it's always nice to see you guys again. I went to U of A for med school, and I'm actually a first-year resident in anesthesiology at The Ohio State University.
Sounds good. To all of our panelists, welcome to this panel. This is our final panel for the day, and we appreciate you all here for your time and your efforts. I'm going to put our first question in the chat to start off our panel Q&A. So the first question is, what was your biggest challenge transitioning from being an undergraduate to your profession school? Again, the question is, what was your biggest challenge transitioning from being an undergraduate to your profession school? And anyone can start as well.
I can start us off. So my undergraduate career was non-traditional. I started, and it was kind of stutter start. As life happens, and so I had to go back to finish, and it ended up taking 10 years from when I started to when I finished. And then I went into the workforce. So there was a gap for me. And I think that the biggest challenge transitioning from undergrad to professional school, it's not the workload. It's not like anything that you think it would be. The biggest challenge for me was in my own mind about making sure that I knew that I was where I belonged and not doubting yourself. And I think that that's something that's really common, especially in us type A'ers, where we think, hey, like, any second now they're gonna find out I'm not supposed to be here. I got in on a loophole. No, you didn't. You were right where you're supposed to be, and they are so happy to have you, and they're stronger because you're there. So I would say go in with that mindset. Don't be on the defense. Make yourself open as you can be, because you're going to make life a lot easier on yourself that way. And your brain doesn't take in information whenever it's under stress. So set her up for success, or him or they up for success.
Yeah, Michelle kind of nailed it. For me, I took 2 gap years. I graduated from U of A in 2018, and it's kind of like you get some insane imposter syndrome. I know for like almost my entire first year, I'm like, did I really earn getting into school? But if you get in, you know, like the school saw something in you, so you're meant to be there, you can handle it. But I think probably the biggest adjustment for me was learning how to be a student again. I worked as a scribe for 2 years, and it was just so long since I had had to study that much that it took some adjusting to try and learn different study habits, because I couldn't use the same study habits that I used in undergrad in med school. Because like in undergrad, you kind of pick and choose your battles depending on which classes are the hardest, but in med school, they're all just equally as difficult. So it's like it takes a little bit to kind of readjust your brain to being a student, but you get the hang of it eventually.
I would also love to add on. I think one of my biggest challenges was actually accepting not knowing everything. I think going through undergraduate, it's very common, like, oh, I can kind of fake through this. I can pretend that I know this and do well on an exam and get an A. But when it comes to professional school, I think it's very important that everything you're learning is very important for other patients. It's not just you, but you're going to be working with other individuals. So knowing the knowledge and accepting that you don't know it was very hard for me, because I was very like, I want to play smart, be smart in front of everyone. So accepting not knowing was hard. But nowadays it's thinking, if I don't know something, I might as well say it, because if not, it's going to be at the risk of a patient in the future. So.
Another big issue is the workload in professional school. It's much different than undergrad, depending on like what your degree was and what you participated in. So usually these programs are quite accelerated and they're dumping a lot of information on you. So it's just adjusting to all the different types of topics and things that you're learning coming at you, and taking time to adjust in your brain, like how you can like tackle each topic one thing at a time. And so I would say that's what you have to focus on, is to take it piece by piece. You can't gulp it all up in one sitting. You know, you got to take it and adjust and learn and take the time to do it. You know, it's not the fastest person who understands it is going to be the better doctor or anything like that. So just taking your time to make sure that you know that you understand it. Because like Laura said, like you have patients that you are going to be relying on you now. And if you're not taking the time to make sure you understand it and you know what you're doing, then that could be harder on you. So just, you know, take it with piece by piece and make your way through it as you can as an individual.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. We're going to move to the next question, and it's in the chat as well. How do you or did you handle stress in professional school? Whether that be during the application cycle or when you actually got into professional school.
I think I handled stress by definitely always making time for things that you like to do. I think a lot of us get caught up in school and forget about our outside life, and definitely making time for those little things that make you happy definitely has helped through school.
I agree. And I also think that sometimes it's just a perspective shift, right? That we have to make sure that we're checking in. So nobody is expecting you to be a savant. You don't need to know every little thing about every possible thing. Nobody does. It's not real. You just need to know that you're there to take in the information the best that you can, ask questions when you're not sure. So I would say remembering that the expectation, the bar that you set for yourself, is that a realistic bar? And is that setting you up for the life that you want to have? Because sometimes we can get stuck in being the smartest, the best, the fastest, and not actually stop to consider whether we're happy if we are the smartest, bestest, and fastest. So making sure that you take time to realize that just because you get an average grade on something, or even if you bomb something, knowing that you can still be such a good practitioner and on top of your game in the field. Sometimes that the grades and the pressure we put ourselves in school, we don't realize that it doesn't always translate to being good practitioners out of school. So just remind yourself that that's what you're trying to be. Not the best in class, but you're trying to be the best in the field for the people that you're serving.
A big thing off of that too is knowing your boundaries. It's something that I'll always tell people when they get to these, when you're pursuing higher education, is know your boundaries. You know, we always talk about, you know your rest, what makes you happy, those hobbies that you have now while you're not in school. Make sure you keep those hobbies when you get into school, because they're things that make you happy and they're a way that you seek to relieve stress. So like for me, I like to go to the gym a certain amount of time per the week, and then I keep Sundays to myself where I don't touch any homework and I talk to my family. And then like Saturday nights I spend with my friends if I actually feel like leaving my house. Sometimes I don't feel like leaving my house. Like I'll just lay in bed all day. That's honestly this is my new place. It's a new place I discovered I like. It's my bed, to be unbothered. And that's completely okay. Things too, like I don't work past 6, 7 p.m. at night. My brain doesn't, it's done. It's like, oh, it's dark outside. Stop doing work. All right, cool. Like, don't push yourself past a point, because you're not really learning much from that either. From what I've discovered, you're kind of just forcing yourself and stressing yourself out, and then it doesn't benefit you. And then you become a little bit more disappointed when you try to think that by forcing yourself to study or get something done, it was going to be beneficial. And more often than not, it's really not beneficial. So just define your boundaries for yourself and stick to them.
I completely agree with what everyone said, but I'd also like to add that don't forget that you're not the only one who's going through all of this. You know, a lot of times it feels like you're the only one who doesn't have a handle on things. You're the only one who's falling behind, but that's really not true. Everyone is in the same boat as you, and it's just a matter of, you know, reaching out to your friends and being realistic with them. A lot of times people are like, they try to hide that, oh, I don't understand something, or, oh, I'm so behind in studying for this class, and so on. But what I've found most helpful in relieving my stress was that my friends and I were always honest with each other. You know, if we needed help, we asked for it. So never be afraid of that, and you'll be pleasantly surprised that more people are feeling like you are. So just don't feel like you're alone in this.
Thank you for your responses and the insight. Would anyone else to tag on to the question before we move on? So, continuing to the third question, what were the challenges applying to professional school?
The MCAT. I think that's by far the toughest aspect of the application. Everything else falls into place, but getting through that test it's stressful. It's no joke. And especially if you're doing it with undergrad. I had a gap between undergrad and starting school again. So it helped me because, you know, I took the MCAT when I didn't have to worry about other classes. So if you are planning on doing that, that's great. And I think that's a wise decision. But if you are planning on applying right away, then I think time management is going to be very important, because getting through the MCAT is stressful. It's going to beat you down. And like, but you just have to remember that it's meant to do that. You know, it's meant to stress you out and kind of make you feel how the next 4 years of your life might feel. So never forget that. And like everyone, you know, we all got through it. You guys can too. So just remember again, and I'm going to go back to my point of asking for help. You know, if you know people who have already gotten through it, who have already taken that test, ask them what they did. You know, ask them if they took it more than once, ask them what they did differently. So I had to take it more than once. So, you know, you, like I said, you're not alone in this, and any of us, I'm sure, are there to answer your questions about that. But yeah, I think that getting through that test was the hardest for me.
The MCAT was definitely a challenge. I had to take it twice. I tried to do self-study the first time and it didn't work out, but and it's expensive too, so you have to pay for it each time, several $100s. But I found something that worked for me. I got a deck of a bunch of flashcards via UWorld, which is a really nice resource to use, and I still use it today, especially when studying for my board exams. And another thing that I think was a little bit of unnecessary stress, even though it can also be helpful, was comparing myself during the interview cycle to some of my friends who I knew were applying. Because then you're like, oh my gosh, I already know some people who have their first interviews lined up. Why haven't I gotten my reply yet? So if you have a strong application, you just got to believe in yourself, because once you get to the interview, the school likes what they see. So they're just trying to make sure that you're in it for the right reasons and all that. So that was probably something that had a lot of stress for me, because I knew some people that were getting into like the first interviews like a month after applying. For instance, my first interview wasn't until October, and usually they start in like August or even earlier. So
Yeah, I agree with everything Grant said. It's really easy to compare yourself. I know when I was applying, I was always finding myself on like Reddit, seeing what people's scores were and stuff like that. And it's easy to become your own worst enemy when you're going through this process. I know I personally probably wasn't the most competitive applicant on paper, like in terms of my scores and my GPAs, but I think there's a lot of other aspects of my application that made me a well-rounded candidate for medical school, which I think what's ultimately got me. And so just kind of reminding yourself that, of course, all those metrics and the scores are important, but there's so much more to the application than that. And so much more, a good MCAT score doesn't mean you're going to be a good doctor. You know, there's so much more to it. And so I think overcoming that is really important when you're going through the process. It's definitely can take a toll, and it was a big challenge when applying, but just try to remember that you're more than a score. You have a lot to offer, more than how well you did on a test or your GPA. And so just remind yourself of that if you're going through it.
Yeah, I kind of had an opposite experience, because for vet school, it's not the MCAT. It's just some schools are accepting the GRE. That's the popular thing right now. U of A doesn't require it. Midwestern didn't require it. So the Arizona schools didn't require it because, like Melissa said, they don't tell you anything about you or who you're going to become as a doctor. That test is I hate that test. It makes no sense. It has no purpose in my mind. And I think that's why they're trying to get away from it, because it doesn't tell you who that student can be and what they can contribute to the profession that you're trying to join. My experience was, the stressful thing was the actual application and all the money that goes into spending it. I had to save up, literally over $1,000 to apply to schools. And I actually had a really scary situation when I applied. So it's called the VMCA's, is the application website for veterinary, and you add the schools, you pay your money, you do the supplementals and whatnot. But the thing is that the people that work behind those systems don't really care. If you're missing something, they don't reach out to you. And so I was missing something. They wanted my transcripts from high school. I had turned everything in early. I was done. I was fully prepared. And then they were like, oh, you didn't give us your transcripts from high school. And I was like, well, why would you need that? That doesn't even make sense. I got my bachelor's degree and I needed that to get into undergrad. I don't understand. And then they didn't send my applications out. So I had lost $1,300 of money. And my application didn't go out to any of the schools I applied to, which really sucked. And I was extremely heartbroken because I felt like I wasn't really given the chance, and I was just going to have to wait until the next year to apply again. And then U of A came out with their application, and then it's kind of just took off from there, thankfully, So clearly I was meant to be here, but I just think that to make sure you are checking in on what you need to do for your applications is what I can say, just because I don't feel like they're not really looking at individuals, even though that they could, and they could tell you, they don't really care. So just make sure that you call and bother them and check in and make sure you have everything you need just to be safe, because you don't want to be put in a position where they just drip you out of something of a chance and it wasn't your fault because you didn't know. So just ask all the questions you can and check in and do what you can, but the tests aren't going to define you. Like Melissa said, I was the same way. I don't feel like maybe competitively it was my grades, but the good schools will look outside of your grades. They will look at the diversity of your application. They'll look at what you've done to get yourself to where you're trying to go, and they're going to want to learn more about you. And I think that those are the programs that you should be looking at as well.
Yeah, I echo that. That holistic application process is a big deal, you know, like I've said it earlier today, I'll say it again, like who you are, keeping up with the Joneses, the competition, all of that, it's something that we create a lot in our minds. And it's something that I think that the industry is getting away from. But applying to graduate school during a pandemic was a really unique thing because for occupational therapy, you have to have a certain number of observation hours, and we know that things shut down a lot. So my like biggest challenge was, you know, also one of my biggest strengths is thinking outside of the box, and that tenacity of saying like, okay, this is the barrier. That's great. I'm going to figure out some way around that. And so never underestimate the power of grit and tenacity and thinking about those solutions beyond whatever barriers in front of you, because that is something that is recognized by others. And it's also something that will get you very far in life. So don't be afraid to ask any questions because you're worried about how you might feel, or, you know, that somebody might think it's a silly question. Administrators, teachers, and people who have a heart for their work love answering questions. They want to be a resource to you. It makes people feel good to know that they've got an answer for you. So really, you can just look at it as you're doing them a favor by helping them to feel good. And hopefully that'll like push some of that anxiety away.
I actually do want to add one thing. I think this applies to all professions, and it's your personal statement. My personal statement, oh, good Lord, the amount of people I had to ask, the amount of drafts I had was ridiculous. You think you know how to praise yourself, how to write a story of your own, but it's actually a lot harder than you think. So I think for a lot of health professions, they do require that personal statement. So I highly recommend working on that earlier, getting more eyes on that document, because what you think might sound great is maybe potentially bad. But also remember to take everything with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, this is your application, as everyone was mentioning. This is supposed to demonstrate yourself. But overall, make sure to work on that personal statement a little bit ahead of time.
Thank you so much for those responses. At this point, we're going to give space for those people who have not answered yet. If you have any follow-up responses, feel free to do so. If not, we can proceed on to the next question. All right, I think everyone's set. So for our next question is, I know that some of you already answered this question in some way, shape, or form, but our fourth question is, did you get in your first time applying? If not, what was your backup plan?
I could take that one. For me, I'm a first year for physical therapy here in Northeastern, and I actually did get in the first time, but like many already stated, I had big imposter syndrome before like applying. I didn't really have the best grades. My GRE scores, since English is my second language, like the vocab part, it was really low compared to like the averages. And I actually wasn't planning on applying. I was planning on taking a gap year, saving money, working, retaking the GRE and everything. But basically, I say like give yourself more confidence than you think. Like I applied to only 3 schools because I just wanted to test the waters to see how the application process was. And fortunately for me, I did get into 2 schools, me thinking before that like I didn't have what it took. But in reality, like they don't look at GRE scores that much. They don't look at your GPA. They look at who you are as a person, your diversity, what you can bring to the program, and basically all that. So don't be afraid to apply just like to test the waters, because you may get lucky like me.
That was not luck, Marco. That was not luck. I agree with you 110%. I got in my first time, but I was waitlisted. And for me, I only wanted to go to this NAUOT program. I was really impressed with it. Midwestern's a great program. There's another one that's AOTA certified, but I didn't want to commute like a true downtowner. I was like, if it's over 4 miles, I just don't know if I can do it. So I applied to NAU's OT program. I was waitlisted as 13 out of a cohort of 45. So I was like, I'm probably not going to get in. That's fine. I'll just apply next year. No bigs. And so I bought a house in Erie, Pennsylvania, and was preparing to move. And then I got a call 2 days after I bought the house saying that I got into the program. So life gets weird, and you got to get weird back, I guess, and I've been highly successful in our program. I think it was a really good fit for me. And, like if you see something that you want, you just go for it. If you don't get in the first time, you still want it, you better go for it again.
And I want to emphasize what Michelle was saying. There's the first thing they look at is to make sure you're not an academic risk. They do look at GPAs, they do look at scores. Once you meet that matrix, then what you bring to the table makes you uniquely different than any other applicant that applies, right? So you could be sharing the same, let's say, clinical shadowing, but what you walk away with, what you take away with, what you learn from that experience is uniquely different. But absolutely, they want to know first, can you handle the curriculum? And then they move on. So absolutely, you got to meet that matrix, or they wouldn't be taking you in as a first year or second year or resident, because it does continue, taking those exams and things like that. But just be confident that you are that person that's competitive.
I think one of the things I really like about this question is really trying to see what is that backup plan? And on that second application, that's really important to try to articulate. Because I was part of the admissions committee for the College of Medicine, and really what we saw was second or even third, fourth time applicants to our programs was really trying to see what had changed in that year. Like, had they actually done anything to improve their application? What was that? What did they learn from it? And more, why were you doing what you were doing? And so I think trying to figure what that looks like for you, because I think that looks different for everyone, and putting that somewhere very strongly in your application, I think really speaks to any kind of professional admissions committee going forward, that you really are invested. I think what both Josie and Michelle were talking about, showing that grit and tenacity, is so important with the actions and what you do within that year. So whatever your backup plan is really important, and knowing it can be different and diverse is totally okay, but make it something powerful and unique and different for your application the next time.
I 100% agree with what everyone has said so far for this and the previous questions. So I haven't chimed in so far. Everybody's so relatable, gone through the same things. I did not get in my first time. I did a few things, I scribed for a little bit, but one thing that I did as well was physical therapy technician. And it's really important as well to stay in the field a little bit, not all the time. You can branch out if you like other things, test the waters, but get into it. I didn't just do it as a job and for a resume builder, but I practiced and learned as much as I could about that. And even today, when I was seeing a patient in my clinic, I was able to run through an exercise with them that I thought would benefit them and really coach them to it, know the common mistakes, what people do wrong, because I have that background even from 6 years ago, pre-med school, but it helped me today in clinic. So everything kind of just makes you more well-rounded and adds to you a little bit, and will eventually help down the road the future patients in your own practice.
I think too, I also got in on my first try. Like, I gave that whole story, still technically first try, even though it was a little bit traumatic. But I think a way to see it too is that, like, what can you do in the meantime before you apply again? As everybody has said, like, don't just give up after you're one and done. Like, keep going. If you know you want it, go after it, but maybe see it as a way that's a benefit to you for the next time that you apply. Like, for me, I worked 2 jobs. I worked in a clinic, obviously, in which obviously confirmed my passion for being in veterinary medicine. And I loved being there. And I have 3 mentors from that clinic. But then I also worked at Domino's Delivery Pizza on the weekends just to save up money. Like, I saved up $10,000 to come to school. I have a monthly budget, and that's what I use to take care of myself. It takes care of my gas, my groceries, and my rent. And that's just something that, and that way I didn't have to pull out all these extra loans, because that's another thing. Medical school is very expensive. And, pulling out loans, unfortunately, is most likely going to be a thing for most people. So I would say just look for a different perspective of what can you do in the meantime when you're ready to apply again. And maybe it's starting to save some money so that you have something to hold you over or take care of yourself during school as well, like just other options.
Does anybody have anything else to add on that question before I go to the next one? Okay, awesome. So you guys obviously have a lot of different fields that you're going into or that you're doing right now. What made you choose that specific field? And then did you look at any others before deciding that you wanted to do that specific one?
So I chose occupational therapy. My background's in community mental health. I did that for 14 years before I went back to school for OT. And the reason I chose occupational therapy is because within children's services, we know that play is how kids learn. We know that. Also, I know that as an adult, unless I make something fun, like it's just not getting done. Like, unless urgency or fun, one of the two. Otherwise, like the dishes are gonna stay where they stay. And so for me, being able to work in a field and see so much growth happen as a result of an occupational therapist, having kids that I work with who were told, their parents were told they'd never walk, and now they're taking off their clothes and running full throttle down the street, and I am chasing this naked kid, all because these OTs did a great job with them. Like that was so powerful to me. So to be able to see, hey, I've capped out at what I can make with a bachelor's degree in this field. I can triple that as an OT while still using the power of play to help people grow and feel safe and, just break down those barriers that sometimes accidentally get put up by things that people say when they're just trying to give support. That for me, like really locked and loaded it for occupational therapy. It has such a wide scope. So I don't think I could ever get bored. My little ADHD brain can be happy for the rest of my life. And I just really love how it brings people into the center, that there is so much more to you than your performance on something. What's also important is how you love, what you love, and what kind of life you want to live.
So I actually in undergrad thought I wanted to go into pharmacy, but I shadowed a few professionals in the field, and I realized that that really wasn't for me. So I decided to change my track and think of going into medical school in some way, and I considered MD and DO programs. I even applied one cycle, didn't go my way. And then at that time I was, very discouraged, but I was finishing up my undergrad, and then I started applying to jobs just to, fill up my gap years and think about what it was I really wanted to do. So at that time, I started working in a limb salvage clinic with a few podiatrists. And that's when I got introduced to podiatry. And most of our patients actually were uncontrolled type 2 diabetics, and they had a complex history of problems with their feet, pressure ulcers, calluses. A lot of them had gone through amputations of their toes or part of their feet, or even their legs in some cases. So watching them, seeing our patients come out of that, looking at the whole start to finish of like how a patient copes up with that, how the podiatrist had helped them heal the ulcers and get them walking again, even after multiple amputations. That was really inspiring to me. And not just that, from learning from them, from talking to them, I understood that this was only one little part of podiatry. There was so many other things that you could do with this in this profession. So the scope of practice as a podiatrist is huge, and having that job for 2 years is what truly inspired me to go into this field.
I can go. I knew pretty early on that I wanted to go into dentistry. Pretty much going into undergrad, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I loved that it was the perfect combination of things I liked. I liked the artistic side to it. I liked the healthcare side to it. I liked the science aspect to it. And then throughout, I never really ever considered doing any other profession. Besides maybe something else in dentistry. And then just going through U of A and doing different experiences every year. I did global dental brigades. I shadowed doctors and dentists that were within the community. And every experience that I had while I was at U of A kind of just solidified more and more that this is what I wanted to do. And definitely in school now, like I know that this is something that I really want to do. I'm so glad I'm here. And yeah.
There is a question in the chat, and I think this is a great opportunity. We have actually two of our panelists that have the Military Health Profession Scholarship. The question's about how do you pay for things, right? We know about the process to apply is so expensive, but then once you're in, and then now two of you are in residency. So can you talk a little bit about funding, your education, your residency with a military scholarship?
Sure, I can go ahead and start. So both Eric and I did HPSP, and I'm doing the Navy right now. And so how that looked going through medical school, you can do it through the first year. So as you're applying for medical school, you can do this for dental programs too. There's some nursing programs. I'm not familiar, unfortunately, with the other professional programs and how that works for them. But when you're applying your first cycle, you're also applying through the military as well. And your contingency on joining the military is based on if you get into school. And you can do that during your first year, as I said, or during your second year of med school. So you only have a 3-year commitment afterwards. And for the funding aspect that we're kind of talking about with this question is they give you a monthly stipend. They help pay for pretty much all your schooling, which is wonderful. I maybe had a few $100s of expenses, just ones that weren't required of me, which was a big relief. I think it's been brought up a few times that having that financial stress can be tough, but loans are something that are inevitable. Unfortunately, a lot of things you just have to take as a drop in the bucket, unfortunately, with that. But there's definitely a lot of support, I think, with all of our programs of how to manage that going forward. But the military, I think, is a great option to do that. What it looks like from a commitment standpoint, for me personally, I know Eric's path is a little bit different, so I'll let him talk about that. But I have my 4 years of medical school that I will pay back in years of service to the Navy. So for me, I'm doing a civilian deferment, which is why I'm at Ohio State. So I do my residency civilian, and then afterwards, after I finish my residency, I will be a practicing anesthesiologist in the Navy for 4 years to pay back my debt.
Hello again. Yes, I did the Air Force route, so extremely similar in terms of the HPSB scholarship, where covering stipend is great. All of those things, paying for books, a lot of paying for the COMLEX or STEP as well, which is another $1,300 exam. Things like that definitely build up. The stipend is just nice to know in terms of you can afford your rent and things like that. Because our school actually day one said, we'll look for you around town. You're not allowed to have a job. And we've caught students before who have jobs, and we make you decide school or job, and you can't do both. You can't make side money. So it's really loans or scholarship if the military is right for you. It's not right for everybody. My route, extremely similar, no real change while I was in school. I did decide to match into sorry, a little sick. I was on pediatrics last month. To match into a military program instead of doing civilian, which can limit your options. That's what people are worried about. I saw 7 different family medicine programs I liked. I would have totally been fine with any of them. I got the one I liked in Florida, where I'm right next to a beach, but overall it's a great program. I'm here on Air Force Base as an officer, which is also kind of nice because you deal with a great population as well. I deal with a lot of enlisted and their family. They usually care about their health more, they exercise, they have to be physically fit. You do have to sometimes have tough conversations as well that you might not otherwise, people trying to hide injuries to stay in, or people trying to fake injuries to get compensation to get out. So there's a lot of extra added paperwork and weird situations that you might not see otherwise. So I will be here for 3 years while I'm in residency. After that, I do O4 for the 4 years of medical school. Benefits as well, I think I usually get paid a little bit more versus civilian. You can look those rates up online as well. There's nothing hidden from what the military gets paid aspect. And insurance is covered. There's no malpractice. There's no prior auths. We joke around that we play with Monopoly money because we can order MRIs and it's always covered. So there's a lot of benefits from that aspect of it versus the civilian world as well.
Yeah, definitely jealous that you guys get IV Tylenol.
Oh, it's the best. Everyone gets it.
I put this in the chat, but we are also told that we're not allowed to work, and they do make it very difficult to do so. But I will say that it's not impossible, especially if you can have a gig that's flexible. But deduct everything you can. Deduct everything you can. Maximize those returns that come to you every year, or decrease what you're going to have to pay out, because just because you're not doing it doesn't mean that like you're not putting. Sometimes people don't deduct things because they think it doesn't matter, or because like it's taking an opportunity away from someone else. It isn't. You're just keeping yourself poor. Don't do that. So deduct everything you can. Apply for every scholarship opportunity or grant that you can. That money needs to go to somebody. Even if you're like, I'm not sure if this really applies to me. If you've got the time and you can apply, do it, because it's not up to you to select you. It's up to them to select you. But if you don't apply, then you're out. But yeah, any opportunity you can. Bartending, dog sitting is really easy. Those little dollars add up and can mean the difference between eating, top ramen for a month versus eating vegetables for a month. And also be smart about your resources. If you can get a Costco membership with a couple of people, if you can carpool, anything you can do to cut down those monthly expenses, it's going to just be more money in your pocket.
So with the few minutes that we have left, let me throw out the last question. And I know that we have a pretty good sized panel, but if the panelists are comfortable putting your contact information into the chat, and maybe our students can follow up with you, that'd be wonderful. But the last question is, what piece of advice would you give? And we have students that are medical students, right? And then we have residents. So if our residents want to give some heads up to our medical students who haven't graduated yet, I think this is a great opportunity too. But what advice would you give to our guests that we have today on this particular panel, or students attending?
I just want to say, I think we've kind of said a lot on the panel, but don't give up if you don't get in the first time. Don't get discouraged. Don't compare yourself to other people, but also most importantly, don't forget what you bring to the table. Don't forget about your passion for the job that you're in, the profession that you're trying to go into. Your passion is what's going to make you unique and stand out to other people. Like, your passion is what's going to drive you. So don't forget why you're doing it. Find ways to inspire yourself, but also find the positive, find the light at the end of the tunnel. It's very, very hard to be clouded by dark by judgment. It's very hard to get rid of those dark clouds, but find the light at the end of the tunnel, because what's meant for you will be there regardless. So just make sure that you don't forget and find a community to support you, your family, your friends, people who are in the profession, people going through it with you. Find people that are going to support you, because that'll make all the difference and make that light at the end of the tunnel a lot brighter.
I just want to reiterate again about comparing yourself. Don't do it. Don't do it. You're your own unique person and you have your own unique experiences, and just don't compare yourself, because you never know what's going to happen.
My biggest basically thing to take away is take advantage of all those curriculums or services that the university offers. From my experience, like Josie, she introduced me to the summer health education professions program, which is a summer internship, and it basically introduces you to whatever medical field you're interested in. For me, I was barely getting introduced into physical therapy, so me getting into Columbia University for that summer internship completely changed my mind. Before then, I was planning on going into medical school, and that internship literally changed routes for me. So basically, yeah, take advantage of those programs and everything.
Great. Well, thank you all for coming today. I really appreciate you all just taking the time out of your day to come here and speak to us and just give us your knowledge. I also want to thank our pre-health advisors for helping us put all this together, and also our pre-health ambassadors, and for everyone who came. And yeah, now I'm going to hand it over to Josie.
Well, thank you guys so much. This brings a closure to our Expo, our 10th annual Expo, and having this dynamic panel is just so reassuring. We're in good hands. They're picking students like you for health professions. And so I'm so excited that you were able to be here today. I appreciate that you take the time out to be here. The students that attended today at 5 o'clock on a Friday, you guys rock. So, we're very excited, for the students. Please come in and see us. Let's talk about your journey. Let's see what makes you uniquely different. Let's make sure that you're a competitive applicant. Make sure you meet all the different criteria. And then also to build that confidence, you need people around you that can tell you can do it. And if there's some challenges, how do we fix it? How do we get away from those things that might have happened before that maybe you didn't do so well, maybe your freshman, sophomore year? But let me tell you, it isn't just your freshman, sophomore year. You have to demonstrate these things as an undergrad. What characteristics, what traits do you bring to the table? What have you learned? Because many schools, no matter what health profession, are looking for that holistic review of your application. Once you meet the GPA, once you meet that standardized test score, then they want to know what makes you different. Why do you want to do this? Does the passion come out? And so we can help you with that. So definitely touch base with us. We read personal statements. Ethan has a personal statement workshop coming up. We have an AMCAS workshop walkthrough for any changes that might have happened. And we have these workshops recorded on our website. So if you can't attend, definitely take a look at them. But thank you, panelists, so much today for being here and really bringing closure to the end of our day and end of our Expo. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend. It's so good to see all these familiar faces and new faces. Have a good weekend.